All right, hey guys, this is Mrs. Van Nieuwen. We are going to be finishing lesson 5.1 today. So what you will need out is please have your notebook and your math book both ready to finish this lesson. So last week we talked about what a function was and how you could tell from a table. So if you take a look at these two tables, I'm going to take a look at the first table. First thing I notice is I usually just look at the inputs, and I notice there are no repeats here. So it doesn't even matter what their outputs are. So every input has its own output. So this one is a function. Okay, second table, I'm going to look for repeats on the inputs. So the first time I put a 4 in, it looks like I got a 7. The next time I put a 4 in, I got a 14. So this one is not a function because the input 4 has two different outputs. So that's what we learned last week. So our learning goal for today is I'm going to give you a graph today, and you're going to try to tell me, or you're going to be able to tell me, is it a function from a graph? So I want you to take a look at these graphs and think about our definition of a function. Okay, so this is not in your math book. This is just for you guys to look. Based on our definition of a function, do you think these graphs are functions? I want you to just kind of think to yourself, what do you think based on our definition, and why do you think it might be a function? So just as a reminder, the definition of a function is for every input, there's exactly one output. So I want you to pause for a second and write down, what do you think for these three? Yes or no? Are they functions? All right, we're going to do a little bit more exploring here. So if you guys look at this next slide that I have two sets of graphs. Okay, the first column, these ones are functions. So all four of them over here are functions. But over here, these ones are not functions. So what do you think might make something a function? What do you notice about all the graphs in this section? Those are all functions. And then what do you notice about all the graphs in the not a function section? Is there anything you notice about the two? So I want you to pause the video and see what you figure out. All right, so hopefully you came up with some ideas before we actually tell you what a function is from a graph. All right, so please open your book to page 257, and I am going to show you how you can tell if a graph is a function. So this is on page 257. All right, so for a graph to be a function, basically, if you take a bunch of points on the graph, so I'll just kind of make a couple here, and I just wrote them as coordinates. So this is like 2, 2. So when I put a 2 in, I got a 2. There's no other point, like up here, if I put like a 2 in and got a 5, that's not on that graph. And here it was 2, 3, 4, 3. There's no other 4, something on that graph. Okay, so this is a function. Now there's a quick, easy way to tell if something is a function, and it's called the vertical line test. Okay, so it's something called the vertical line test. And what that means is, like, you could take a pencil or anything vertical, and basically you could take that pencil and you could move it across your paper, and you basically want to see, does it cross more than one time? So here's how I kind of think of it. I go to my graph and I draw a vertical line anywhere on the graph. Right here, it crosses once. Right here, it crosses once. Right here, it crosses once. If it crosses once, it's a function. If it crosses more than once, it's not a function. So this graph is a function because each input corresponds to exactly one output. Now here would be an example of one that's not. I'll just kind of show you real quick. So if I gave you this graph, this would be not a function. So if you watch this, I'm going to grab a different color. If I drew a vertical line, you guys might see that it crosses my graph 2 times. So that is not a function. That's like a quick, easy way to tell. Another way to tell is if I gave you these points, this one maybe is like 2, 4, and then down here it's 2, -4. Well, when I put a 2 in the first time, it looks like I got a 4. Next time I put it in, I got a -4. So there's like 2 points that have the same input, but they gave you different outputs, the 4 and the -4. So that is not a function. So let's turn to page 258. All right, it says, can you perform the vertical line test on this graph? Okay, so it's kind of like the one I just drew. So basically, I'm going to come draw a vertical line. I can draw one here, I can draw one here, I can draw one here. On each of those vertical lines, it should only cross once. Well, here it crosses once, twice. Here it crosses twice, here it crosses twice. So this is not a function. This graph is not a function. You can label that because the vertical line test shows that it intersects the graph at more than one point. This means that an input corresponds to more than one output. All right, go to page 258. All right, I have another graph here. Okay, let's see if we can tell if this is a function or not. So what do you think, first of all? Okay, so I am going to draw a vertical line. Looks like it crosses once. I'll draw another one. Looks like it crosses once. I'll draw another one. Crosses once. So this graph is a function. So yes, it's a function. And let's see if we can fill in these blanks. So the graph is a function because the vertical line test shows that it always intersects the graph at exactly 1 point. This means that each input corresponds to exactly one output. All right, on page 258, do you think you can tell so far how you can tell if a graph is a function? What about a table? Okay, I want you to pause and in your notes here, how are you going to tell if a graph is a function? Go ahead and jot down how you are going to be able to tell. Once you have that jotted down, you can continue playing the video. All right, let's go to page 259. Now, sometimes you're going to get a graph and there's not like a line on it or any kind of pattern, but we still can test if it's a function. There's a couple different ways you could do it. You could say, okay, I'm going to write all these coordinates down. You could put them into a table if that helps you. So I might see like one coordinate right here is 2, 3. Okay, I'll put that in the table. Here's another coordinate, 3, 1. Okay, I can put that in the table. Here's another coordinate down here, 2, 1, 2, 3. 2, -3. Okay, here's another coordinate over here, -1, 1. And then here, -2, 2. Okay, now we know how to tell if a table is a function. So I could be like, hey, I put a 2 in and I got a 3, and then I put a 2 in and I got a -3. So right away I know it's not a function. Okay, another way to test is using the vertical line test. I can draw a vertical line, crosses once here, crosses once here, crosses once here, but on this vertical line it crossed here and here, so it is not a function. Okay, so let's see if we can fill in the words down here. It says use the vertical line test. This relation is not a function because the input 2 corresponds to more than one output, right? Because I put a 2 in and I got a 3 and then I got a -3. All right, let's go to page 259. Okay, I have another one. I want to tell if this one is a function. So go ahead, pause the video. You tell me if you think it is a function. All right, well, I could draw a vertical line, crosses once, crosses once, crosses once, crosses once. So yes, this one is a function. Every input has exactly one output. All right, I have another one. This one is not in your book, but what do you think about this one down here? Is this one a function? All right, well, let's draw a vertical line. That one only crosses once, crosses once. Ooh, this one right here crosses twice. So this one is not a function because when I put a 1, 2, 3 in, I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 3, 4 here, and I got 3, 7 or whatever it is right there. So that one is not a function. All right, please flip your book to page 260. I want you to try these two problems on page 260 on your own. When you're ready, push play. All right, so the first one, if I want to know if this one's a function, it says you could use the vertical line test. Does it ever cross through more than one point? Well, if I draw a bunch of vertical lines, it only crosses once. So I'll say no. So the relation is a function because each input corresponds to exactly one output. Okay, if I look at the second one, okay, I want to know if this one's a function. Well, I'll use the vertical line test. Crosses once. Ooh, here it crosses like 3 times. So this one is not a function because the inputs have more than one output. All right, so you have A through I here, I want you to go on the side of your math book where there's like the line spaces. I want you to label A through I, and I want you to try these 3, 6, 9 problems. Write down yes or no. What do you think? Are they a function? Then we will correct them in a minute. So please pause the video and complete these. All right, letter A, you should have yes, it is a function, okay? Passes the vertical line test. Letter B, they put an 8 in and got a 2, and then they put an 8 in and got an 8, so this one is not a function for that reason. Letter C, okay, it looks like it crosses twice here, so that one is not a function. If you look at letter D, they put a 7 in and got a -2. The next time they put a 7 in, they got a 3, so that one is not a function. Letter E, if you draw a bunch of vertical lines, looks like it crosses once at each time, so that one is yes, a function. Letter F, you might start drawing vertical lines and be like, hey, it crosses once, but over here, it crosses twice. You know, I could do that a bunch of times, so that one is not a function. All right, letter G, if I kind of start drawing vertical lines, this one appears to be a function, crosses once. Letter H, on this one, I'm going to look at my inputs, or my x values, and I don't see any repeats over here. So I don't even really care about my outputs, because there's no repeats there, so this one is a function. And finally, letter I, if you take a look at this one, appears to be okay here, but it looks like, you know, like right here, it crosses like twice, so that one is not a function. All right, so our learning goal for today is, can you tell me if a table is a function? How do you know? And can you tell me when a graph is a function? And how do you know? If you can do those two things, then you have achieved your learning goal for today. So let's go ahead, and I want you guys to open your notebook to where we took some notes on Friday. Okay, so you should have a page that says functions. Okay, and we, at the end of the class, in some of the hours, right underneath where we wrote the definition of a function, we just made a little table that says function yes and function no are not a function. Okay, and we were just going to put some examples so we had them in our notes. All right, so I'm going to just quickly draw some examples. So, let's draw some examples of some graphs that are functions. So just a normal old line is a function. Okay, so that would be an example of a function. You could draw some other ones, something like this. Okay, and then you could even prove it using the vertical line test. So you could kind of just draw, you know, a vertical line showing it crosses once. Okay, I'm even going to put, to tell if it's a function, you can use the vertical line test. Okay, should cross only once. Should cross graph once. Okay, so you definitely want to always use the vertical line test. A table is a function. We can just do like a little example too. If I put a 2 in, I got a 4. If I put a 3 in, I get a 6. If I put a 2 in, I get a 4 again. If I put a 7 in, I get an 8. As long as every input has exactly one output, we're okay. So this makes it kind of okay, this 2 and the 4. Okay, I'm going to draw some not functions. Okay, so let's start with a table. Maybe I put a 3 in, I got a 6. I put a 4 in, I got a 10. This time when I put a 3 in, I got an 8. 5 got a 12. So this one's not a function because when I put a 3 in, I got a 6, and then I got an 8. So my input of 3 had 2 different outputs. I'm also going to draw a couple sketches of some graphs that are not functions. So here would be an example. Okay, and then maybe a circle. That's kind of an example. You could even draw, you know, with a different color, a vertical line to show that it crosses more than once. So not a function. This one crosses more than once, not a function. All right, so hopefully you guys can add any other notes you want to this page on how you can tell if something is a function. All right, so hopefully you're feeling pretty good on how you can tell something is a function. So you guys are going to work on 2 things. First, you're going to take a Schoology check-in quiz. This will be graded. Hopefully this is an easy kind of a grade booster. You're just telling me, is it a function, yes or no? When you finish that, you are going to work on some of the book problems in page 261 and page 262. And all of this will be posted in Schoology. If you have questions, I will be available in the class kick or on the Zoom.